Hello, darkness, my old friend. Good morning. I think. Let's go ahead and do this over here. Dun 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 dun. I will be right with you. Good morning. Hi, it's Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Code, and we're about to do a live video, probably, if I can find it, as usual. Here we go. Okay. We are here. I'm going to give everyone a minute to hop on in, to do your thing. I'm doing a live video today, which you may have noticed because you're here right now. That would be your first clue. But I'm going to be doing a live video today to go over GenCon, basically. To go over GenCon, and primarily because I got back 11 o'clock last night, dead tired from walking the floor for, well, from walking the floor for 4 days straight, and I'm so exhausted. And I was not prepared to go through the usual amount of research that I do on a to-back or not-to-back video. So today's normally Monday, for those who know the channel, for those who've been watching and following the schedule, normally Monday is a to-back or not-to-back video where we go over Kickstarter games and all that kind of thing. Good morning, Joshua. How are you? And that's not going to happen today because those videos take hours of research, and I don't know what I was thinking when I thought that I'd come back Sunday night and then stay up till 3 in the morning doing the research and figuring it out and doing a video. 4 days of walking around really takes it out of you and exhausts you, and so no to-back or not-to-back video today. We might have one Wednesday instead, like swapping the live stream. There's not going to be a live stream Wednesday, probably not. Instead, this is the week's live stream, and it's going to be a bit of a Gen Con recap, going over Q&A's welcome. I'll be going over whatever it is in the comments as usual, but focusing on Gen Con, the experience I had, the best games I played, the best moments I had, things I learned about coming up, both games I played, games I'm interested in, all that kind of thing, and questions welcome. But that's going to be today's video. Today's video is going to be that Gen Con recap. So I'm going to give it another minute or so before starting, because I have yet to develop the mastery of the countdown timer, which means I can get one. I just haven't done so yet. And so to that end, we're going to give it a second while we go through. Box Farts, welcome back. My first time watching a live video. Box Farts, I do a live video every Wednesday morning. Now, if you're not available Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you're available Mondays 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, well, that would explain it, because that's why you're here. But yeah, I just came back from Gen Con. I was at Gen Con, I assume it stands for General Convention, don't actually know, but in Indianapolis, and it was, I mean, it's 5 days of gaming technically, 4 days primarily, but like Wednesday night I arrived, then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, through the whole entire thing, and played a bunch of games, not as many as I'd like, but I played like 15 or 16 games, and then I had a whole bunch of meetings with a variety of publishers, and then as well as just walking the floor and interacting with anyone from the people that came up to me to various content creators or just friends that I've made in the space. Had a lot of fun, and there's a lot of cool things. If you haven't been to Gen Con, it's overwhelming in how much is going on, but it's the kind of overwhelming that I personally like, but everyone's going to have to make their own decision as to what does and doesn't work for them. So, for example, just use my own context, and I've talked about this stuff before in the past, but going to Gen Con, being around a million people who play games, and being around a giant space that's crowded and all that, could be overwhelming. For me, the general positivity and feeling I get from just everything I love around me is so much and is so incredible. Versus one night I went to a bar where there was a party where you couldn't hear anyone talk, and I lasted like 45 minutes before I just couldn't take it and had to leave. So everything is a little much. Brandon stands for Geneva Connection, as it started in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Didn't know that. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. Jacob, how did you feel Gen Con was compared to last year given the pandemic? So, Jacob, I can't answer that myself only because I wasn't at last year's Gen Con, but I will say that from the people who were at last year's Gen Con, it seems like this year was a big step up. My numbers, and these are not necessarily 100% accurate, but I believe the numbers are pre-COVID, Gen Con was at 75,000 attendees. Then we had COVID and didn't have Gen Con for a year, and then when Gen Con started up again, it was at 30,000 that first year as people were still slowly starting to figure things out. Then from there, I believe this year is around 50,000, and next year I think that they're thinking it's going to be back up again. K. Smith, Victorum. Yes, Victorum is one of my 2 favorite games I played at Gen Con. So let's go ahead and talk about that, and we'll continue to go through other things. So starting off, I guess, here's the part where we start with my favorite Gen Con experiences in different ways. Hoplomachus Victorum is one of my 2 favorite games I played at Gen Con, and the 2 favorite games I played at Gen Con are vastly different, and one of them I didn't get to come back with because they sold out before I even had a chance to get to it. But Hoplomachus Victorum from Ship 3 Games was easily, I mean, I was looking forward to it, but I was looking forward to it from the stance of I knew I would enjoy it, but how much would I enjoy it? And I loved it. I sat down, played this for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. It was a lot of fun. It's a solo game, but I played it solo cooperative. They were doing meetings with 2 people at a time for the most part, so it's kind of like 2 people collaborating collaborating and sitting down and head-to-head kind of discussing the strategy. I can tell you it works as a co-op game, assuming you have a good repertoire and banter with the other person you're playing with, because you're not playing against. It's a solo game. But I liked Hoplomachus back in the day, and the original Hoplomachus that I played from Ship Theory Games, I got rid of it because I really enjoyed it, but I thought that it didn't have a degree of iteration to the experience. Versus Too Many Bones, which has been my favorite Ship Theory games for a long time, felt like a similar puzzle, different but similar, with iteration and development to the experience you had as you played through it. Hoplomachus Victorum fixes that by giving you a campaign game, and it gives you that iteration and experience, so you're leveling up as you go, and you're building your bag, and you're building your pool, and you're leveling up your abilities, and it was an absolute delight. Easily one of my 2 favorite games I played at GenCon. Interestingly enough, I also have Hoplomachus Remastered coming as well. That one I'm less excited for. Excited for sure, but I'm less excited for because I think that one will be back to the puzzle with no further steps forward that I would be looking for. So that's Hoplomachus and Hoplomachus Victorum. Easily, this is one of my favorite 2 games I played at GenCon. And I'll go through a bunch of other games. I played a bunch. I played a lot of games I enjoyed, but my favorite 2, to get you that out of the way so you can go do whatever else you want. The other is going to be Acropolis from Hachette Games. Acropolis was a lot of fun. I wasn't actually planning on demoing it. Frankly, the box art didn't pull me in. It wasn't on my list of games that I was even interested in or on the radar in any way. I think they even had it at Origins and nothing at all. No interest whatsoever. Not against it, just didn't pull me in. And I was talking to Max from Max Thiemer from Table Nuts. And he's like, oh yeah, we played Acropolis, and it's like Cascadia, but with levels. And I was like, anyone who compares anything to Cascadia, I will try. I adore Cascadia. I think it's an excellent game. And so I sat down and got a demo of Acropolis the next day. I really liked it a lot. It's different than Cascadia. Very different. I can see someone liking Cascadia and not liking Acropolis, and vice versa. But it has that same scoring puzzle that I particularly enjoy. That same scoring puzzle of a game in which you're trying to grab and draft tiles with a degree of choosing and prioritizing when you're going to pay more to get an extra tile that helps your engine. But it's such precision as far as how you build out your board, how you move up levels, how you go spread wide. It was a fascinating game. I played with another person who we went with vastly different strategies. I went up to like 2-3 levels high with particular scorings, and I got like 160 points just from temples alone. And they went for a wider scoring stance where they took a bunch of other things and stayed on one level. I thought I was going to crush them because I had 160 points from one thing alone. The problem is they went wider and got a bunch of other things, and they ended up winning by a few points. But it was a very tight game with 2 very different strategies. Really enjoyed it. I thought it was absolutely excellent. The Boogers. Did you pick up Brazil? I did not pick up Brazil. There's a bunch of games. If you watched my top 10 games I was most looking forward to, I managed to check out probably half of them, not all of them. A lot of games were just, whenever I stopped by a booth, if there's a line for a demo, I didn't really wait around. I hopped from booth to booth. I was in between meetings all day. And so whenever there was an opening, I sat down to demo something. Probably demoed 7 or 8 games throughout the convention. Not a ton, but I stopped by Brazil. I stopped by, Portal Games. They didn't have an opportunity to check out the game further. Heard good things about it. Still on my radar, but did not actually get it. Grey Fox. What does the meeting with the publisher usually entail? Do they just talk to you or media as a whole? So Grey Fox, this is going to be different depending on what you're actually doing. And I had a variety of different meetings throughout the convention. So for example, at one point there was an AEG general publisher event. They had a few of these with different time slots. And so they had one where they invite a bunch of media to your room and they're like, hey, here's our upcoming games for the next year or so. Here's a bunch of things to be aware of. Here's our Dead Reckoning campaign launching in a few weeks. Just a general awareness with showing and demoing a bunch of games, meeting a few people from AEG. That's one way you'll have general interactions with publishers. Other times they invite you more privately, even if privately might entail 2 or 3 people. You might have a 2 or 3 person sit down where they start showing you a game, demoing something. For instance, I had a whole bunch of meetings lined up, and they ranged from sitting down with a designer to play a game, sitting down with a publisher to demo a game, talking about their plans coming up in general, talking about what overlap there is. And my meetings are always interesting because depending on who you are, sometimes there's a pitch you have, like, hey, I'd like to sell my services, pay me for this playthrough or this or that. I don't have that. I'm not taking money from anyone for content, so for me it's more about general awareness. What games are coming up? How can we help? How can we talk or whatnot? So for example, Steamforged Games. Steamforged Games is absolutely going to be one of my highlights in terms of the general convention, not in terms of playing a game, but just in terms of my meeting with Steamforged. I managed to meet with the heads of Steamforged Games and had a nice hour-long meeting about various things coming up on their agenda, and I really enjoyed it for a variety of reasons. First of all, one of the games they talked about, which we'll get to in a second, but Rivet Wars, they're picking that up. We'll talk about that shortly. But just in general, it's a company that I've been working with for the past year now plus, and it's nice to get that in-person feel. I've never met them in person. I've met them both online in videos and conversations, but I got to meet them for the first time in person and have a real nice sit-down conversation, how Steamforged Games is progressing as a company, what their challenges are, what they're working on, things like that. It was a very was just a generally positive meeting for me, and I had a lot of fun. I also got to spend about 35 minutes of that meeting just talking about Rivet Wars, which Steamforged Games is picking up Rivet Wars, which is a game that Command put out, I want to say in 2004. No, that seems too early. 2014 maybe? A while ago. I don't remember when Rivet Wars came out, but Rivet Wars came out a while ago from Command Games, and the owner or whatever, the designer, has the license for it. Command never continued or picked it up, and so Rivet Wars was a game that many people liked, but never really continued as a product line. It's a light skirmish game. It's an accessible skirmish game. It's a game that I've played with my daughter. We still have the whole collection upstairs of the original Kickstarter of the game. It's one of those games that I enjoy, but with a cap. Like, how good is it? It's accessible, it's easy to dive into, it's not a perfect game by a long shot, but it's a very enjoyable game. And so Rivet Wars, they're going to be relaunching Rivet Wars with a whole bunch of changes that make it very compelling in different ways, including a solo campaign. One of the things I'm very intrigued by is I think Rivet Wars, like I asked them, the way it works is like they're talking about Rivet Wars and I was asking them questions like, what about this, what about that, are you making this change, are you adding solo mode? And like most of the things I asked for were things, most of the things I was asking for were things they were like, yep, we're doing that, yep, we're doing that, yep, we're doing that. And so the things I wanted from a Rivet Wars experience are being iterated and developed upon. I don't remember all the various changes they're making. They're making some changes to targeting priority to make it more accessible. They're streamlining the rules a bit. They're adding more factions and more content for the game in general. But they're going to, one of the things I was very interested in is they're going to be adding a solo campaign to Rivet Wars as an experience. I really enjoyed the meeting in general. I really got to see the polished art and the next step for the game, but very excited for that one overall. Sakabra, I'm glad people like you go so I can see it as I would never go myself. Sakabra, I don't think that's unreasonable at all. Going to a convention, I've talked about this in the past. I love going to conventions. I absolutely do. But it's easier for me to justify because I'm doing it as a content creator. The expense and the cost and the time involved is not insignificant. Between a hotel room, between badges, between a flight if you're flying there, between the lost opportunity of whatever job or work or vacation, between the cost of the games, an experience like GenCon can easily run you as little as $500 or as much as $2,000 to $4,000. I mean, I know people who flew in from Australia. That's not insignificant. And so doing that for funsies is something that you have to have the disposable income to justify, which for many people is not worth it, and I would not encourage you to do so unless you are certain that you want to. I would never encourage anyone to go to a convention. Find the closest, easiest convention for you to go to. Don't just willy-nilly go to all conventions because they're expensive. Now, if you want to, obviously do so. You know your own finances, you know your own situation, you know what you want. For me, it's easier to justify just because I do it for my living now, and so I can justify those expenses more easily versus I never did. I was in gaming from 2011, 2012, all the way through 2021 before I went to a convention. So like 10 or 11 years in the hobby, and I didn't feel the need to go to a convention. I don't think I was the target audience for it. I think I'm the target audience now because I've started to make more friends in the industry and started to branch out in different ways. But I think that there are many people who go to conventions, and there will still be many people who go to conventions. It may or may not be a target audience for you. Zamorian, good morning, Alex. What are your thoughts on GenCon? How excited are you before GenCon versus after? I would say I'm more excited. A lot of things. It's interesting because one of the things that's interesting is my excitement has certainly pivoted. If you recall or if you watched, I had 10 games I was excited to see at GenCon, and 5 of those or so I'm still excited about and still very much on my radar. Others are much more on my radar. Acropolis, very much on my radar. Twilight Inscription. Twilight Inscription looks fascinating. Twilight Inscription from Asmodee Games was set up. It's one of those games I'm really looking forward to. I didn't get a chance to buy a copy. They're running out, but I hope to pick up a copy. But Twilight Inscription is set up from Fantasy Flight from Asmodee. It's basically a complicated roll and write that has 4 boards. If you've seen Hadrian's Wall, which has 2 full boards, Twilight Inscription has the boards that are the same size, but there's 4 of them with variety baked in. My biggest thing with roll and writes in general is I think that roll and writes, with some exceptions, can get repetitive as you play through them, and so the biggest thing I like in them is variety. I like the fact that I have, Welcome to the Moon with 8 different maps. I like the fact that I have Railroad Inc. with a whole bunch of different expansions so I can play it again and again and feel like it's different every time. I like Hadrian's Wall with its 50 million pathways to victory that you can choose and the ways you can combine them. I like complexity or variety in a roll and write, and it looks like Twilight Inscription is going to be a drop less complex than Hadrian's Wall from what I can see from people who played it, but that might be wrong, versus having more variety than Hadrian's Wall. And like I asked one person who'd played both, I found one person, a thinker-themer actually, who'd played both Twilight Inscription and Hadrian's Wall, and she was like, I can't say which one I like more, but it's something I have to pause on. And I was like, that's good enough for me. Hadrian's Wall is my favorite roll and write, and if you have to pause on it, then that's good enough for me as far as being whatever. As far as being interesting. Zamoria, did you play Twilight Inscription and War of the Ring the card game? So I just covered that, and War of the Ring card game I did not play. I did speak to a few people who did play it. Roy Kennedy played it. the Podfather of Gaming played it. But overall, I believe the opinions I heard about the War of the Ring, the card game, were positive. It's not War of the Ring. It's not meant to be War of the Ring. But I believe the opinions I heard were generally positive around those games. John Garrett, I made the mistake of trying to demo Twilight Inscription later in the day. My eyes glazed over after 5 minutes of the 30-minute demo. I'm sorry. Casey, were you able to find a copy of Roleplay Adventures? Casey, what do you think's on the table over here? This is Roleplay Adventures right here. I managed to pick it up at the end of the con. I managed to get this one from Thunderworks Games, and this is one that I'm hoping to table at some point. I mean, I know they'll have upcoming Kickstarter content around the game at some point, and I'm hoping to table it so I can have coverage out before then. And I have my demo. There we go. Okay. Kim Lutkus, what was the 2 favorite games? Acropolis and Hoplomachus Victorum. Hoplomachus Victorum and Acropolis were my 2 favorite games played, although there are a lot more. Grey Fox, am I crazy or has your opinion of Cascadia grown since its release? I could have sworn you liked Verdant better. No. So my opinion has grown. Yes, my opinion has grown. No, I never liked Verdant better. My rating from those 3 games, Cascadia, Calico, and Verdant, was always Cascadia, Calico, Verdant. But there were multiple people in that video, and different people had different opinions. There were 2 people who liked Verdant the best, and I think there were 2 people who liked Cascadia the best, and Calico was like the middle for everyone. I love Cascadia. It absolutely has grown on me. My initial rating of it was a 4, but it's one of those games that when I do my look back year in review, Cascadia is a 5 for me. I love it. It's so accessible. I'm always happy to play it all the time. And yeah, Acropolis is rivaling Cascadia for me, so that's why it's my 2 favorite games I played this convention. Some other games I played, just to jump at. I'm jumping back and forth between chat. I'm a little less chat focused today than usual, just because GenCon, I have things to talk about, but I will be jumping to chat as usual. Oh, and I got a few questions about Jesse's ducks in the chat, so let's cover that quickly. Jesse, Quacklow, put out a bunch of ducks. He did a little thing where there were ducks all around the convention, and if you found the ducks, underneath some of them it said, you win. So it's a little bit of a duck hunt, so you can find the right ducks, find something, and you win a game, and all that, and it was a great idea, up until the fact some booths were not aware of this duck thing, and some booths complained to GenCon saying, hey, we have a bunch of ducks in our booth, and we don't like it one bit. Other booths were like, hey, we have ducks in our booth, we know Quacklope, we're friends, this is all fun and games. The booths that did not like it, and to be very clear, by the way, any booth that did not like the ducks, I'm fine with that. I mean, as much as I think Jesse's idea is a cute little idea, if you do something to someone and they're not a part of your plan and they don't like it, they have that right. This is not in any way shaming either Jesse or the booths. This is, Jesse had a fun little idea. Some people don't want to be involved in your fun and games. That's totally fine. But they complained to GenCon, and they could be an ambient number of booths, I don't know. And the problem is at that point you had a whole bunch of booths that were fine with it, a whole bunch of booths that weren't, and GenCon staff being told, hey, clean up the ducks because we can't figure out who's what, so just clean up the ducks. Kind of ruined Jesse's little duck hunt to a degree, but I'm sympathetic to all parties. I'm sympathetic to the fact that it was a nice idea, and to the fact that it's a nice idea with people who didn't always ask to be part of it. So, I played Too Many Bones, which was great. I managed to play Too Many Bones at the convention. I played Harrow County from Jay Cormier, what's the name? Off the Page Publishing. That's going to be an upcoming Kickstarter. I will have coverage of that one. I only played the first scenario. It's an iterative experience where you learn more and go through as you go. I really enjoyed it with caveats. The caveats are not caveats. The caveats are more, I want to play it more because I have certain thoughts and concerns about the gameplay that I want to try different strategies. It's asymmetric. It's a heavily asymmetric game, which means because of how the first game went, I kind of want to try different strategies to see how it plays out, to poke and prod as it were. I both really enjoyed it while wanting to try to poke and prod at the experience as I continue to play through it. I'll have coverage of it at some point, but definitely a solid, enjoyable game from Off the Page Games. It's no mind management to me, but it's heavy asymmetric abstract with a really cool theme and really well done. I'm very excited for that one. I also played Soulforge Fusion. Soulforge Fusion, which was not on my radar at all, but I had a meeting set with the publisher, sat down to play Soulforge Fusion, and I have 2 things to say about it. The component quality is garbage. Like garbage, garbage, garbage. Nothing personal if you're watching this, can't remember the name of the company. The name of the company is Ascension, Stoneblade Entertainment, but I thought the component quality of Soulforge Fusion was garbage. It looks like it's in a prototype box with pieces that to track things that look like they could be prototypes. The card quality is not great. I was very disappointed in all of that, and I'm more disappointed in it because I really liked the game. I really like the game. Soulforge Fusion it's one of those hybrid systems similar to Keyforge where you have programmatically developed decks where every single deck is different and you buy a bunch of decks and you mix decks together to be able to create your factions. So you have different decks, and if you have like 12 decks, then you have tons of different combinations of ways you can create your factions and then battle head to head. what I really enjoyed about it is it has a system of upgrading. As you play a card, you reach to your upgrade deck and upgrade that card. So your spells, your beasts, your creatures, all those things upgrade as you play, which gives the game a strong feeling of evolution as you play that I really enjoyed. I don't love two-player card games in general because I find who am I playing with them and one person will learn the game system better, but Soulforge Fusion is one that I might try to make an exception to add to my collection because of the fact that I really enjoy it, and I want to pick up, like, you know, 8 or 12 decks. I'm not going to bother trying to collect things because it's infinitely collectible, but I asked him, like, how many decks is a reasonable number before you start feeling like the decks have a bit of sameness to them. And he said it depends on the person, but he said 8 to 12 is probably, I think he said 12, and I'm thinking 8 to 12 because it's 4 in a box. So I have one starter kit right now. I'll probably pick up another starter kit and have 8 decks to combine, mix and match. I really enjoyed it, but I wish the components were better. Well, what do you think? What do you feel is a medium weight Euro game that deserves extra attention? A medium weight Euro game, Aquatica. I love Aquatica, and I think that Aquatica with the expansion, I should say, but I generally say that. Thinker Themer, hey, how's it going there? Oh my God, I'm so behind the chat. Oh my gosh, now I need to find out who's here. I'm sorry. Jesse's here. Oh my gosh, I'm so behind. Jesse, good morning. Wow. Okay, so it's a good thing I didn't, like, sit there and attack you in this chat, because apparently you're watching me. But yeah, no, I mean, basically, okay, sorry, I'm sorry. I'm so far behind this chat. Thinker Themer and Jesse and Quacklope are both here, so I missed that until this second. But Jeff Cleland, you're my favorite creator. Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, Thinker Themer is definitely one of my highlights. Amy and Maggie, they were at GenCon, and they're from Australia, so it's a big deal. But basically, oh my gosh, I'm so far behind the chat. Wow. Anyways. They were at GenCon, and the problem is because I'm hopping back and forth between meetings the entire time, I'm in this place where I keep running into people I know all the time. I ran into tons of people that I know. Like, I'm not even going to try to list them all because I'd forget 15 of them, and I ran into a lot of people and had a very good time. But Thinker Themer in particular, because of the fact that I don't get to see them, like there's a bunch of people I missed, and that's fine. I'll see them at the next convention. But Thinker Themer's from Australia, so like I very much wanted to meet them because they only come to the US once or twice a year. I've met them before at Gamma, but I wanted to see them to hang out briefly, and the whole convention just kept going by and didn't have a chance for anything to happen. And so eventually the last day I was like, we both were like, where are you? We have to, like, find each other. And so we managed to find each other to, like, get a few photos, to talk for, like, you know, 10-15 minutes, which was nice. Not the level of, like, Gamma was much nicer because Gamma we actually got to sit down and play games for like hours, but this was very overwhelming in a good way. The entire convention was very overwhelming, so we'll have to make more plans and times in the future, but it was nice to run into them, of course. Ironically, I probably saw Jesse, Quacklope, less than I saw Thinker Themer. I ran into Jesse like twice the entire convention. Like, we're coming from the same place, we're going home at the same time, but because both of us were in meetings and they crossed each other, I ran into him twice the entire convention. Got to talk for a few minutes, but that's basically about it. Seth, I'm thinking of going to PAX Unplugged. I think you should go to PAX Unplugged. I just already changing what I said earlier in this conversation. I think that if you want to go to convention, PAX Unplugged is fun, but that's up to you. Jesse, they would not sell you Twilight Inscription. Why not? You mean they had it and they wouldn't sell it to you, or they just ran out? Those are two different sentences, so I'm very curious about that. Daniel, do you get Cat in the Box? I did not. Cat in the Box is one of those games that I did sit down. I walked past the booth multiple times to demo it, and every time I did, there was always it always was unclear how much time was left for the demo. And because I was between meetings the whole time, I didn't have the time to sit around for 20 minutes to see when something was wrapping up, so I did not get a chance to play it. I spoke to multiple people who played it and really enjoyed it, so I'm still looking forward to it strongly, just haven't gotten to it yet. Let's see. I've heard very little about Ahoy. I did not stop by Leader Games at all. I just happened to not go to them. Leader Games is interesting because I love Root. I love Root. I think Root's fantastic, but none of their other offerings have compelled me enough to overly pay attention. They're a great company with great following. It's not personal. I just haven't gotten around to it. Martin, hi everyone. Good morning. Robbie, what would be a good age to take kids to Gen Con? I've got a 6 and 10-year-old. I think it depends on your kids. I think it very much depends on your kids. I think 6 and 10 could be totally fine. I certainly saw younger there, but I would say both things are true. I saw kids in the 6 to 10-year-old range, and I also saw kids in the 6 to 10-year-old range that were not having a good time because it might have been overwhelming or a little too much. I think it's probably fine, but it's a lot, so you have to know your kids. Isaac Kundif, did you stop by the Paverson games while you were at Gen Con? I did not. I saw Paverson at Origins. I did not stop by them at Gen Con. Cat Technoblock, any good documentaries on board games you've watched? Sadly not. I don't know if I've watched any documentaries. I think I've heard very good things about the documentary on Sleeping Gods, Red Raven Games, on Ryan Lockett and his wife, but yeah, it's a lot there. Chris the Writer, I'm really excited for Sky Mines. Have you got a chance to try that? Still not. That was one of the ones I did not get a chance to find out. Thinker Themer, we're so happy to see you. Yes, it was great. The best part is I was arranging with Amy where to meet up, and then we wandered into Maggie, and Maggie's like, I don't know where Amy is. We finally saw you. I was like, I know where Amy is. We're wandering over there right now. Brian, I always miss the lives. Brian, not today. Not today. Jesse, exhibitors could not buy it. What? You're saying, okay, so Jesse, you had an exhibitor badge and they weren't letting exhibitors buy the game? That's interesting. Did you not have anyone you could ask next to you to like nudge, nudge, wink? I mean, I'm not trying to say you should go around the rules, but that's interesting. Jester, did you play Marvel Zombies? I did not. I did not bother trying Marvel Zombies because I've played Marvel Zombies already, so it wasn't as much of a priority. I already backed it, so I already have it coming. I already played it. It's a cool game, but certainly not one that I was prioritizing over other things. Let's see. Okay, let's go through and go over here. Box Farts. Did Chip Theory Games mention anything about the new Skyrim game? They didn't here. I've talked to them about it in the past. I don't know what you necessarily want to know. I don't think there's any big secrets. I think it's going to be a Too Many Bones adjacent experience, different enough from Too Many Bones to be its own beast, while maintaining some of the same DNA within the experience. If you like Too Many Bones, there's a decent chance you'll like the Skyrim game, and if not, there's a decent chance you won't, but that ultimately time will tell. So let's go through for a second some of the other games I played, because I'm jumping back and forth between chat and experiences. Oceans. I got a chance to play Oceans from, I should know, North Star Games. Oceans is the next evolution of, well, Evolution, basically. And Oceans is the one I hadn't actually played. I've had it in my collection for a while, but I played it because I know they have an upcoming Kickstarter for the expansion. I want to try the base game, and I did. I got a chance to play it. I really enjoyed it. I would say I enjoyed it more than Evolutions. It had the same bitiness and strategy that you'd expect, while also being a little less bitey. Like you can keep your creatures alive with a little bit more control. So I really liked the experience. I thought it was very well done. For myself, I want to play it more. I actually played with one of my friends, my game group, who was at the convention with me. I plan on playing it more and tabling it more, and we'll see. But I enjoyed it. I don't know if it's a keeper, but also I'm making more hard choices about my collection in general and trying to really trim it down. A whole bunch of things from AEG. Played a whole bunch of AEG-based games in the publisher room. Got a chance to try a bunch of them. I'll probably talk about those more in the future. Lots of those were more demo experiences, meaning not full games, and so I want to try them more. Sat down to play Enchanters. I actually sat down to play Enchanters with Leo from Mythic Games, and I really enjoyed that. Didn't even get to play a full game, but it was my first time sitting down with Leo properly and playing a game. I already knew Enchanters. I've already played in the past. This is their big box. Mythic Games basically sold out of I mean, honestly, walking out of the convention in general at the end is incredibly satisfying because so many publishers are all but sold out on so many games. You watch them come in with like stacks and stacks of games, all set up in the booths, tons of stuff, and then you get to the last day and you just see how little is left. It's a sweep. It's a clean sweep. And as a publisher, it's very hard because you're making a guess as to what to bring, understanding that anything you don't sell has to be shipped back. That means you have to pay freight to get it to you and freight to get it back on things you didn't sell, which means you're playing this messed up guessing game of just hoping everything works out in your favor, which is fairly brutal. And so, yeah, it's tough. But anyways, I played some War Chest. I played some, what's it called? What's the game? I can't remember the name. There's a game that has a blackjack mechanic, but it's a small little box game. Can't remember. Played Mystic Vale for the first time. I don't think I like it as much as Dead Reckoning. I'm going to be playing it more because I have the expansions, but I definitely like Dead Reckoning significantly more. Same card sleeve system and designer, which is why I'm saying that. And then I played Forsaken. Forsaken was fun. Forsaken is a fun game. That was probably one of my highlights as far as GenCon was playing Forsaken, which I've played Forsaken in the past, and I've really enjoyed Forsaken. Sorry, let me take a step back. I'm just focusing on different things. I played Forsaken once before, and I really enjoyed the experience, while also not liking the downtime on other people's turns. Forsaken is a game from Travis Chance from Game Trace Labs that is going to be coming to Kickstarter, I believe, September 7th, and I had a chance to play it in the past, and I really enjoyed it when it was my turn, and I really didn't care at all about your turn. I had a chance to play it again at GenCon and sat down, and again, I really enjoyed my turns, and again, I really didn't care about your turns. So it's actually funny, because Travis specifically, Travis the designer, he wants to come down and have a review where I both talk about the things I like and talk about things I don't like together with him, which is something I'm totally down for. If you're someone who's receptive to critical feedback, I'm happy to do it in front of you. I don't mind. And critical feedback does not mean your experience. It means my experience, my critiques. My critiques with Forsaken is that I love the game when it's my turn. I always have my turns planned out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to move around here. It's a sandbox engine. If you've played Western Legends, to me it's a better Western Legends with the same downtime problem as Western Legends. But I played a different character this time, or we played a different character. There were enough people around the demo that we were kind of teaming up, meaning just 2 people controlling one character. But played a different character, had a lot of fun, really just wandering on the map, destroying people, beating people down, leveling up our stuff, getting more gear, getting towards our achievement objectives, having a lot of fun, both against the AI and against the other players, and it was just a blast. But also, I only cared about my turn. So Forsaken is both a game that I still really love and also am okay with, but both at the same time. I do want it, but my thing is, I haven't played a 2-player yet. I really want to try a 2-player because I want to see if the downtime experience is improved upon. I also want to play the solo mode because I know they're going to have a solo mode. So right now my experience with Forsaken is still in the testing it out. I really like aspects of it. It depends on the downtime. We'll see on that one. Then we have Mosaic. Oh my gosh, Mosaic. I still love Mosaic. I played Mosaic. I had a full demo game of Mosaic. I played in the past, but I managed to sit down with 3 people who were new to it. I want to say all 3 people playing. No, because one of the people playing was from not Forbidden Games. Forbidden Games, yeah, Forbidden Games. So I played Mosaic with 1 person from Forbidden Games and then 2 people who were new to the game. Both people new to the game. This can be Professor Meg and Shira from Cracklope. Both of them were new to it. Shira actually crushed us all, like not even close. She destroyed us. But it was a lot of fun, and it's one of those games that sometimes when you play a game you haven't played in a long time, especially if it's a game you loved, sometimes you're like, I don't remember why I love this so much. And in the case of Mosaic, and that's a dangerous thought and experience as a reviewer, by the way. As a reviewer, I'm always terrified that I will play a game down the road, and I sat there, hyped something up, and I play it again, and I'm like, and now it's only okay. It doesn't happen often, it really doesn't, but it does happen, and it's scary because I'm putting my opinion out there, and I'm saying, this game is really good, or this game is not so good, and opinions changing is a little scarier as a reviewer. But in any case, I really enjoyed Mosaic. I've played it already in the past. I played it like 6 or 7 times, but I had a lot of fun with it. I really did. Solid game. Let's see where we are as far as chat. Kartukun. Hi, Alex. Have you ever been to a board game convention outside the US? Thank you. I have not yet. I almost went to, I think, Breakout Con. Is that the one? There's one in Toronto that I almost went to this past year, but unfortunately I couldn't make the timing work, so I did not. But also, I don't really consider Toronto outside the US. Obviously, it is, but like I'm from Toronto. I drive there all the time. For me, I would say that the ones that I'm looking at is I plan on going to UK Games Expo. I absolutely plan on. And then I also plan on going to Essen, although not this year. This year it just doesn't work out scheduling-wise, but I do plan on going to Essen likely next year, if the timing works out. Jay Langley, do they have information on Rove by the makers of Crimson Scales? Jay, I have an insider track to the any questions on Rove, so I don't know what you're looking for as far as Rove. I know it's a Kickstarter that's planned for 2022, so we should still see it this year. It's by the makers of Crimson Scales, which is the largest fan-made expansion for any game that I'm aware of, and it's a fan-made expansion for Gloomhaven more specifically. And I mean I know the creator, so take all of this as bias. By the way, I know the creator. Like I'm friendly with him now, but like I went to school with him way back when, so understand biases left, right, and center. But I went to school with him, then we went our own separate ways, and I wasn't friends with him in school, I just knew him in school. We went our own separate ways, and then I did YouTube content and board games, and he ended up becoming the designer of a bunch of board games and starting a company with board games. So I have a relationship with him back in the day, but because of that, it also means that I know a lot of what's going on, because like since then we've reconnected and been like, hey, let's talk shop and figure things out. But I really enjoy Rove. There are aspects of Rove that I like more than Gloomhaven. There are aspects of Gloomhaven I like more than Rove. For me, I need to play Rove more. I've played 1 game of Rove. I will be playing more Rove. That's not even a question at all. I will be playing and covering Rove more. If you have specific questions around it, let me know. But yes, it was set up briefly by the Foreteller booth. It was set up every morning for like a 2.5-hour window. Foreteller had rotating companies setting up because Foreteller represents different games. So they had rotating games there. Daniel McMillan, best experience hands down was my tournament of Skull King. Favorite demo was First Rat. Favorite purchase was Magic, Mountain, or Turing Machine. So Turing Machine is one I wanted to demo, but again, like many other games, when I went there was always full, so I didn't come back for it. Skull King I haven't played yet. I actually read the rules for it a few weeks ago, just haven't tabled it. Good to know. I like trick taking these days. Favorite demo was First Rat. Who's First Rat by? I remember seeing that, but I don't remember who it's from. Is First Rat Pegasus Bill? They have a rat game. I don't know. Let me know. Nightlight Guy, did you see Ninth Haven Games there? I did not. Daniel McMillan, I cannot believe how overhyped Merchant of the Dark Road was by Cracklope. The game was a mess and super derivative of many better games. So, Daniel, I mean, I can't say, if I recall, Cracklope's coverage was overall positive. I don't remember it being super hyped, but I think Merchant of the Dark Road is a fine game. I enjoyed it. I had enough complaints that I also don't feel the need to keep it. But overall, Merchant of the Dark Road, I believe it's gotten very split opinions. And I think the problem with Merchant of the Dark Road is that I think Merchant of the Dark Road was an overhyped game in general. Like, there was a lot of hype around the game doing the Kickstarter, and I think it landed and a lot of reviewers, myself included, were like, this is good. And the problem is when you expect this is good is not good enough. I think there are many people who would have really liked Merchant of the Dark Road if their expectations were lower. So I think expectations really went against the game's interest in this case, because there are many people who really enjoyed it. I can point to many content creators who've played the game and like it a lot. I've seen multiple creators who have put it in their top 10 games of 2021 or something like that. And then there are multiple creators who are like, not creators, reviewers, content creators. The multiple content creators who were on the meh category. Meh doesn't mean bad. Meh's like, it's good, but it didn't really blow me away. I believe a lot of the Dice Tower crew was more, it's good. I was on the it's good. A roll. One Stop Co-op Shop was on the it's good category. I don't think I saw anyone who said it's bad. There was good versus amazing, and there was definitely a split over there. Aaron Clark, thoughts on comparing Forsaken to Destinies? I realize very different gameplay and theme, but seems similar in attempting to create a competitive narrative game. Aaron Clark, on the surface, you're not wrong at all. Experientially wise, I would not compare them at all. But surface level, I agree with you. You know, narrative, running around, running your own objective, interacting to a degree, having a shared world and events. From a high level overview, Forsaken to Destinies is a great comparison. Feelings wise, didn't do a thing for me. Steve Munar, good morning and thank you and Quacklo for all the coverage. It was very awesome to see the experience the first time. Truly looking forward to next year. Very much so. In fact, I didn't even vlog the experience this time. I started, like, doing travel. I pulled out my camera, did my whole thing, got to the convention, did my whole, Wednesday night, I went to the convention hall in order to just run around. I had a very short window. By the time I got to the hall, it was 7 o'clock, and then I had till 8 o'clock before the hall closed for the night, and so I had an hour to run around and get as much content as I could for my next day video. Because I like having a day one video. I think it's good for those who are going to the convention to get a feel for some of the things going on, to get a feeling and a sense of everything going on at a convention. Lots of stuff happening. And I would have loved to get more. I would have loved to do 2 videos even, to have like a day 1 and a day 2 video with all the stuff. There's so much stuff. And next year I might try to go a little earlier, to get there a little earlier in the day so I could do, you know, 2 full videos of just the sheer amount of stuff going on. But the net result is, because I did so much the first day, I kind of stopped pulling out my camera the rest of the convention. I didn't bother. I was having too much fun and I had too many meetings and I felt I had a little enough of a time that I've done vlogs before. I'll do vlogs again, but this time I was kind of like, I'm just going to enjoy myself. I'm just going to sit down and put my camera away. I'm not going to film anything. I'm just going to have fun. Well, and the meetings and all these things. But so, like, it was working fun. But, like, I took a step back and I will not have a further GenCon vlog. I don't think so, because the content I have has me driving, traveling, picking up groceries, sort of arriving, and then no longer pulling out my camera, which I think is not the most interesting vlog. Steve, ordered my first Come On Master of the Universe game. Loved your coverage over the year. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Harrison, I know you were mixed on Northgard originally. Do you have any plans to revisiting the final versions? Harrison, that's a tough one. Oh, Jenna Rose should have come to Breakout. Jenna, I wanted to come to Breakout, and you're the primary reason for the record, because you and Chris George, I believe, were both going to Breakout, and nothing against everyone else there, but that's 2 people I know who I'd love to interact with and hang out with. But I was not able to make it. Let's talk next year. I would love to go. It's in Toronto. Toronto's an easy place for me to visit. It's just this year has been so overwhelming, and it's going to continue to be overwhelming. Over the next 3 months, the amount of travel I have lined up, both people coming to me and me going to people, is intense. I'm a little nervous about just how much is going on. In a good way. I mean, it's good to be busy. It's very good to be busy. It just means that I have to do so much. But going back to Harrison's question, I know you're mixed on Northgard. Any plans on revisiting it? So the short answer is, I don't know. I don't know, because my opinion of Northgard was mixed. It wasn't bad, it was mixed. I liked aspects of it, and other aspects of it I was like, I'd like to see this streamlined or cleaned up. It had deck building, which is one of my favorite mechanics, but also the way it implemented, I felt it could have been done better. I also know they were making changes, so I'm kind of on the fence. I might just wait to see how the reviews come in on it and see what other people say. If overall opinions in it are strong, I will probably be interested in revisiting it. If overall opinions are mixed, then I probably will not, because one thing I haven't talked about, you can find out about it here first, is something I did in 2022 is I had a game a day challenge. 2022, and it's still ongoing, where every single day I play a new board game. That challenge is still ongoing, and I hope for it to continue across to the end of 2022, which means we have, 5 more months, 4.5 more months, whatever it is, 3.5 more months, no, 9, 10, 11, 4.5 more months, okay, 4.5 more months of a game a day. I plan on continuing that challenge. I plan on doing that as much as possible, and I really enjoyed that conversation, that just the aspect of trying to go through my unplayed games. But also, almost as a consequence of that, something I plan on doing in 2023 is the exact reverse. I plan on limiting myself to 2 games a week of acquisitions. And that includes review copies, Kickstarters, anything. An average of 2 games a week, 100 games across the course of the year is what I plan on limiting myself to in 2023. Now, for many of you, that's like 100 games a year. Congratulations, Alex, you're limiting yourself. For me, it is. For me, I get more than that, and I play more than that, and I go through more than that. So for me, that is a big step down. And as a content creator, I have to have some degree of new content. So I have to have something, but I want to limit it myself. And so the reason I'm doing this is because I want to look at games more critically. I want to say, you know what, if I only have 2 games a week, can I afford to take another look at Northgard? Can I afford to pick up this? Can I afford to pick up that? And so I'm going to be trying to limit myself. I'll probably talk about it in a full video at some point because I can. Why not? But yeah, we'll see. Okay, Sam Howe, Role Player Adventures. Oh yeah, you're answering the question. Someone wanted to know what this was. Sorry about that. This is Role Player Adventures. If I move him, he might fall, so we have to be careful. Food Flights. My wife and I are looking forward to getting GenCon as soon as they drop the disappointing masking passport mandate. Until then, we'll save our time and money. Food Flights. This conversation, whenever I get these comments and videos, it always drifts a little bit political, but I'll engage here because I appreciate engaging. I would say, let's talk about masks and conventions. Let's talk about that. And understand that I'm coming at this from the furthest thing from being left-leaning or right-leaning. As usual, I fall somewhere in the middle. I don't like masks. I'll take that a step further. I despise masks. I really don't. I find that masks are uncomfortable to begin with, and then you combine lots of talking, lots of walking, and just a crowded room with tons of people, and I find masks really get to be very much for me very quickly. I do not like them at all. In the slightest. I will also note for the sake of this conversation, I'm doubly vaccinated and have a booster. My general stance on masks is pretty simple. I don't like the masks mandates. I really don't. I would love to go to a convention that didn't have them. I also understand that the practical reality is that you're going to have a lot of people at conventions who feel welcome or unwelcome based on policies set. You'll have people who don't feel welcome if there aren't mask mandates. Those people are more mindful and more sensitive, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying their preferences lean a certain direction, and if you don't have those, then you're hurting those people and saying you're not welcome here, effectively. Not that you're not welcome here, but we're not going to create a structure and an environment in which you are going to feel welcome here, whether intended or not. And the flip side is true as well. If you have masks, you're going to have people who sit there and say, I don't like masks and I don't want to go. I think inherently, no matter what you do, no matter what policy you set, you're inherently prioritizing a group of people. And I think it makes sense that the conventions tend to drift a little bit more towards the mindfulness, a little bit more towards, let's have the mask, let's be a little more careful. And I think the level of enforcement as the years have gone on has drifted a little bit. It's there, it's present, but it's getting a little less strict. There's like tables set up where you can have a maskless table as you eat for like half an hour or whatever it is. There are opportunities and options as far as enjoying the convention, having the mask on, and having that slight restriction. Again, I don't like masks. I really, really don't. I respect why they exist, and I am fine with why they exist. On a personal level, I just don't like the way it feels on my face, and it feels constricting. And on a personal level, I'm fine with the risk-reward benefit. But everyone has to make their own risk-reward benefit, and the inherent nature is we're all making that choice around everyone. So anyone who doesn't want to go to a convention because of a mask mandate, I understand that. Anyone who doesn't want to go to a convention because there isn't a mask mandate, I also understand that. They're just inherently complicated. Jenna, we love Merchants of the Dark Road. Yeah, you see there's another one who loves the Merchants. There's a lot of people who really like Merchants of the Dark Road. Scott Renford, good morning. Thanks for bringing us some juice from the source waters. JCW, Victorum's on the table. Yes, Victorum's on the table. This is where I get to be very, very lucky because I'm a content creator. This is one of like 6 copies currently available of Victorum. The rest are still being, shipped around or distributed or coming our way. I believe these are the 6 copies in the US. I got one. I loved it, had a lot of fun with it. I will be tabling it this week. My goal is to dive into it a lot this coming week and have content on it fairly quickly. I really, really enjoyed this one. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Colin Boyd, did you get a chance to play the Fox Experiment? The Fox Experiment from Pandasaurus Games. That's an upcoming Kickstarter, I believe, in which you breed foxes to perfection in a roll and write game that's more than a roll and write. It's roll and write with a board with more stuff. I have not had a chance to play it, but I was demoed like the general content of it, and I'm looking forward to it. Scott Kunkel, out of the new games you saw, who are the highest quality miniatures? Scott, I didn't look at that at all. I didn't. Oh, Food Flights. We're going to come back to you in a second. Scott, I didn't look for best miniatures in the slightest. Mythic Games, I'd say, just inherently. I think Mythic Games I'm more mixed on their titles. I think Mythic Games has some great games and some good games, but I think their miniatures are top-notch in general. They had Darkest Dungeon set up, amazing miniatures. They had Super Monster Apocalypse miniatures. They had all their miniatures are absolutely amazing. Jenna Rose, playing some games with you and Chris would be great. There's always next year. Jenna, there's always next year. That's the thing. There's always more conventions. At the rate I'm going to like 4 to 6 conventions a year right now. That's a lot. I mean, it doesn't feel like a lot because I already missed GenCon and it's been a day gone. But yeah, there'll be next year. There'll be opportunities. Daniel, thoughts on moving the con from Indiana? Would love to see it in Minnesota, one of the only Minnesota states that isn't setting human rights back 50 years. Daniel, that's a question for them, not for me. I am not going to be in charge of moving the convention. William, didn't GenCon start in Minnesota? I don't know. It started in Lake Geneva, apparently. Aaron Clark. Yeah, I'm going to go on a 2023 board game buying hiatus. I've got a backlog of 30 Kickstarters coming. It's getting concerning. Yeah, Aaron, so for me, I can't go down to that. Like, Devin from Devin Talks Tabletop did a thing where he's, like, not buying games for a year, but he will get games from publishers. He's just not buying games. For me, it's, I'm not doing that way. I'm doing stricter and less strict at the same time. I am setting myself a limit of 2 games a week. Whether they are publisher review copies, whether they are Kickstarter backers, whether they're buying at a convention, whatever they are, I'm going to be in 2023, I'm going to be setting myself a limit of 2 games a week, period, on average. So I can go to GenCon, come back with 10 games, and that's 5 weeks worth of games. I can do stuff like that. It's more with the average. But that's going to really force me to examine even further. Like, hey, you want me to review your game? Well, the problem is it's going to have to be one of the 2 acquisitions I make this year, so I have to really want to review your game. I'm curious to see what will happen. It does mean, by the way, that it will affect the content of this channel. There's a decent chance that it does mean that I no longer do 5 reviews a week. How can you do 5 reviews a week if you're only getting 2 games a week? I'll probably shift down on the review content I do to some extent, or also this backlog content. Maybe I'll shift down to 3 reviews a week, and some of it will be backlog content. And also, I am allowing myself to play others' games. But if I get it, it's one of my 2 acquisitions. So we'll see. Nothing's official until it's official, but yeah. Food Fights, they can make the masks a personal decision. So wear one if you feel like it, don't if you don't, but it's okay if you don't. So Food Fights, the inherent problem with that is that's just not practically speaking the way masks work. I agree with the concept, don't get me wrong. The concept is present. And I'm going to go down a dark rabbit hole in a second. I'm not going to heavily engage, but I'll go down a dark rabbit hole in a second. The problem with the masks in general is that masks usually protect the people who are not wearing them more than the people who are wearing them. Meaning if I wear a mask, it protects myself a small degree, but it protects everyone else from me to a larger degree. So saying it's a personal decision is a weird way of saying, hey, you can drive erratically on the road, but I won't. Well, if you drive erratically on the road, you're putting everyone else in danger too. So we're going to say you can't drive erratically on the road and you have to follow certain laws. And again, I understand that will make people feel unwelcome, and I'm sympathetic to that. I would rather go to a maskless convention. I understand why masks exist at conventions, and it's messy. As far as the aspect that I find always interesting, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, I'm just going to bring it up as a conversational piece. I find that there are 2 different sides of the conversation. There's always a side of the conversation around abortion and it's your choice versus mask and it's your choice. And I find both sides often have a specific way they look at it that only applies to their side. And then both sides looks at the other side and says, you're a hypocrite because you don't agree with my side, even though both sides are doing it. Obviously, that's not, I don't want to extrapolate to sides in general. Everyone's going to be case by case. But I do find that they're interesting in terms of both of them. People are like, well, it's a personal choice, but we also want to enforce rules around your personal choice on the reverse. I think there's a little bit of hypocrisy on both sides. And I think anyone who has one stance around one, not the other, should just question the consistency of your application. I'm less concerned with any viewpoint ever. And I would say I'm far more concerned with consistency. If your viewpoints are inconsistent, that's trickier and you should examine those. I'm Dinosaur. As someone from Asia, I'm super envious of GenCon. Yes, I can understand that. Again, I spoke to a Thinker Themer who they paid way too much to come to GenCon. It made me feel very, very lucky to not have to go through that expense to go here. Brant Anderson. Brant Anderson Victorum was my game of GenCon. It was so good. Yes, Brant, it was absolutely amazing. I mean, this and Acropolis for me, and very different experiences. I think Hoplomachus is easily a better game, but Acropolis will get tabled more because of the nature of the style of game. Zach, I grabbed Black Plague Green Horde for Green Horde $50 a piece, and the 3 small box expansions for $25 a piece. I think it's a great deal, but now I'm sad I missed out on the Kickstarter goodies. It's reasonable to be sad that you missed out on the Kickstarter goodies, but those are all great. Minsky, is that Roleplay Adventures? Yes, it is. Daniel, do you know if Shira got her Lego nameplate if they sell it online? I don't. I assume they sell it online, but I don't know anything. Wesley, what did you eat over the weekend? Wesley, good question. What did I eat over the weekend? I don't know if you mean Shabbos or the whole weekend. I ate, so for those who don't know, and I assume Wesley knows this, but I don't know. For me, Joshua, I'm super contemplating whether or not to subscribe. Joy says, I have to do this. Joshua, I think it's a big mistake talking about masks on here. I'm super contemplating whether or not to SU. Do you mean unsub? Well, I don't know what you said or not, Joshua, so I won't engage with what you said, because I don't know if you're saying subscribe or not sub. Continue subscribing. Oh, Joshua, you continue subscribing to your channel. Yes, absolutely, Joshua. You are always welcome to unsubscribe at any point you want. I'm not saying that confrontationally. I'm saying that at the end of the day, people have their opinions and they can engage with their opinions they want. I will also engage with my opinions, and my opinions generally are middle of the road. If that's not something that you are okay with, you might want to consider unsubscribing. Almost all of my political conversations do drift middle of the road, and they do try to tackle it from both sides. I think that things in life are complicated, and I think people like to demonize people on one side or the other. I will never do that, and I will not avoid those topics in the future. If that makes this a channel that's not for you, that's totally reasonable, because I respect that. It's just something that, I mean, yeah, I I do talk about things when they come up, and I don't avoid conversations. Going back to Wesley. Wesley, what did you eat over the weekend? So, Wesley, over the weekend, I only eat kosher food, so for me, my options are not any of the food trucks or anything like that, which means I often come prepared. I brought Wacky Mac, I brought bagels, lox, and cream cheese, which is one of my staples for traveling, because it's something that you can eat very, very well. Something you can eat, you can prepare it very easily. It's just, you just toast a bagel. I want toasted bagels with that. Past that, I brought assorted snacks. I brought coffee with me. I brought some chocolate with coffee in it, because more coffee is always good. But yeah, in general, I brought my own prepared food, and that's about it. So I have very little variety to my convention food whenever I travel. It's almost always going to be bagels, lox, and cream cheese at some point. I just like it. It's a very Jewish thing to like. It's a very traditionally Jewish food, and I do like it. So that's going to be a very regular thing. But yeah, that's basically that. Let's see, where we're up to now. Do you feel that there are snobs in the board game community? Saying my top 10 is better than yours. Also saying that you like that game, you're a loser if you like that. Jay Dover, I do feel like there are snobs in the board game community. I sometimes am one of them. I don't try to be, I don't plan on being, but sometimes I am a little snobbish in my approach. I like games a lot, and I try not to be snobby, and I definitely don't say my top 10 is better than yours. And I would say the thing I'm always most mindful of is sometimes I can say something jokingly to someone and it might come across as snobby, and that's always the worst because you don't have an opportunity to correct that impression. You're like, oh yeah, you like Monopoly or whatever comment you make. I don't care if you like Monopoly. You like Monopoly, you like Monopoly. But I'm likely victim to being snobby at times without intending to be. I think that for me, I probably most do it when it comes to lighter games. When I'm talking to somebody else and it becomes clear that they like lighter games, and I don't, but again, it's not intended, it's just the nature of conversation at times. I think it's very easy for any conversation around movies, around music, around whatever. Like, let's say someone says, oh yeah, I really like Avril Lavigne. Someone's like, oh my gosh, especially if you say, like, I really like Avril Lavigne, like, she's so punk, and someone's like, that's punk? Like, it's very easy to, whether very snobbishly or whether just reactively, to prioritize your own tastes in any field, in anything at all. Like, hey, you like Marvel movies? I mean, we've seen left, right, and center with directors talking about Marvel movies and how they feel that they are, terrible movies. Okay, you don't like it. People do. I'm not interested in dumping on other people's tastes. If you like a game, you like a game. It may not be a game for me, but that is what it is. Let's see. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Number 1, yeah, Alex, please don't engage. Yeah, I will. I'm sorry. I do engage with things. I'm not going to shy away from things. I understand if that makes something that's not for you, but I do. Paul Fenton, a content creator with an opinion. Well, I never. Joe Cabos, Alex, by any chance did CMON have info on or sneak peeks on Master of the Universe? I did not see any info on CMON's upcoming games, only their currently available things. AB West, Shapiro's another convention and kosher, by the way, really great deli. So AB West, I believe Shapiro's is a kosher deli as a style, not a kosher deli as in actually kosher. I could be wrong, but I looked into it. I did not believe it's kosher. Jamie Alexander, your opinion on roleplay adventures? I'll let you know once I play it. Gary Klein, Trudvang. I'm interested in Trudvang, yes. Nidamira, great coffee chat. Thank you. Yes, Nidamira, we do drift that way. Joshua, the fence writing seems like a way to not offend any subscribers, but lacks real opinion. So, I mean, Joshua, I can't help you there. I told you my opinion. I don't like masks, but I understand the conversation on both ends as to why you would want or not want masks. It's nothing to do with not having an opinion. It's a regular thing you'll see on this channel is, I believe that almost every single side has a reason why that side makes sense. And people look at their side and then they write off half the population as like, hey, you're crazy. I don't think half the population's crazy. I think most people have merit to their opinions, and then sometimes we go a little bit extreme and just refuse to talk to people. I genuinely, for most conversations, I sit on the fence because I understand both sides of a conversation. When you have such a huge divide in opinions, one of two things is true. Either there's probably truth to both sides, or I don't know if is there another thing that's true? Or one side's drastically right, the other side's drastically wrong. I guess that's the other option. I think fence sitting it's not about fence sitting, it's about, I always have an opinion, and I told you my opinion is. I personally don't like masks, and I understand why they exist. But at the same time, that's, yeah. Dan McKillen, should I get the first edition of Final Girl or wait for the second Kickstarter? The second Kickstarter? Do you mean the third Kickstarter? I think you mean the third Kickstarter, right? Or do you mean late backing? I don't know. I mean, it depends what you want over there. But yeah, let's see. Where are we now? Food Fights. I already pre-ordered that one. I don't know what you're referring to. Matthew Gonzalez. It looks cool. I love the theme. Food Fights, but I'm not sure if Alex has talked about it yet. I don't know which game you're talking about. Okay. Hem 520. People are... no, okay, I'm not going. There's only so far down the rabbit hole I want to go. Meaning, I don't mind talking about the conversation, but talking about the conversation is an extra step that I don't think drives the conversation forward. So there was an earlier conversation about Dice Tower Crew. Dice Tower Crew is absolutely one of my highlights, by the way. So I got to meet the Dice Tower Crew for the first time. I don't think I've met any. No, it's not true. I've met Mark Streed before. I met Mark Streed in the past, but for the first time I got to meet Tom, Roy. I mean, in person. I met them not in person. Tom and Roy and what's it called? Who else did I meet? I mean, everyone. Mike. Chris, his wife, who else did I meet? I mean, everyone was there. No, I didn't meet, oh my gosh, what's her name? I'm blanking, I apologize. Yeah, I met most of the Dice Tower crew, but really enjoyed meeting them. It was great to talk to them in person, especially Roy, because I've interacted with Roy a lot more, Mike a bit more as well. Tom is obviously very busy, so I got to say like hi, and that's about it. But it was nice to see them in person. Again, I've been watching them for the past 10 years, and so it was very much enjoyable to meet with them. Past that, the ONEB team. Oh my gosh, I'm just going through my own notes and my highlights over here. So we have Hoplomachus, we have Acropolis, we have the Asmodee. Asmodee booth was a lot of fun. Asmodee, and I'll get back to ONEB in a second. Asmodee had a huge setup because Asmodee obviously has their hands in many pots. So they have their Fantasy Flight booth, they have their Days of Wonder, they have, Catan, they have Command, they have so many different games going on and set up that just walking around Asmodee's booth was just a ton of fun. Anything from Twilight Inscription, they had a game that looked very cool that I want to pick up called 3000 Scoundrels, that looked very cool. They have the newest Days of Wonder racing game that looked very interesting. Didn't like the component quality of the cars. I felt that was it's interesting. Days of Wonder used to be like the most premium board game company, and now they're just normal because premium board game companies have very much become the norm. And so Days of Wonder was there as well. Catan, I didn't get a chance to actually try Catan Dawn of Humankind. I wanted to, but Catan had a whole booth set up. The general Asmodee entire booth and the entire way everything was set up was just a lot of stuff, and so that was a lot of fun to wander around over there. Additionally, ONEB was great. It was so nice to meet the ONEB team in person. I've briefly ran into Tom and Mark in the past at Gamma, very briefly, but it was nice to see them in person, properly here, and to actually sit down and talk with the ONEB team. They didn't actually have anything for sale. They didn't have any. They had like no Vindication, no Unsettled. They were like it was general awareness, but they were demoing the games, talking about it. They have their upcoming game as well, Spiritfire, if I'm not mistaken, and I had a chance to talk to them, and it was great. They're such a good, close-knit group of people that are. It was very cool. It was very, very cool to see them. And Lucky Duck as well. Lucky Duck has the same thing where some companies you see and it's a bunch of people and they're doing their thing, not meant to be offensive. And then other companies you see and it feels like you're talking with a family. Lucky Duck, ONEB, those are companies, and I'm sure there's others I'm not immediately thinking of. Chip Theory Games. There are many companies that they're like clearly a group of close-knit people who are doing the same thing again and again, and the way they interact it feels very cool. Yeah, it feels very cool. Let's see, where are we now? Wendy, yes, Wendy. I saw Wendy. Wendy was delightful. Oh my gosh, like it was so nice to see Chris and Camilla. Thank you, Camilla and Z. I did not see Camilla or Z. That's who I missed. But Chris, Wendy, Roy, Tom, Mike. All of them. It was great to meet people. Great to meet people who I've been watching for a long time, both new and old. I mean, some of the Dice Tower crew, Tom, I've been watching for 10 years, and then different people have hopped in at different points, and it's just nice to see them in person. It was very, very nice. Honey Tots fell. You talk incredibly fast. Any chance you could reduce that by maybe some 20% or 25%? Yes, I could. The problem is it's constantly, I've talked about this in the past, I could reduce how fast I talk, but I have to be mindful of it. And also in live streams, I tend to go a little faster because I'm trying to keep up with chat. The balance on my end is I'd force myself to slow it down, but whenever I talk about whether I should slow it down, I have other people who are like, no, we like it the way it is. Given the fact that many people like it the way it is, I try to go with generally my norm as opposed to anything else. Renato, Mark Street, you met at Ivy Studios. Renato, you're not wrong. You are clearly following along. Ahami, do you prefer GenCon or Origins? Only ever been to Origins, and I worry GenCon is almost too crowded. I was worried GenCon would be too crowded, and there certainly are times in which it is too crowded compared to Origins. I would say I prefer GenCon to Origins, but not significantly so, because of the fact that they both have their, Origins is all the stuff I want with a little less crowdedness. There are pros to that, versus GenCon. I like both. I would say if I could only go to one, I probably would go to GenCon. Let's see, do you back Windward Age of Atlantis? I backed Age of Atlantis. I have not received my copy, which is weird. I should be receiving my copy of Age of Atlantis. I don't know how far back we are, but I mean, I should get a copy. I did not back Windward. As far as my thoughts, it was an interesting. I haven't played either yet. Andreas, I saw that the Meadow sleeves and promo pack was sold at GenCon. They happen to also have a demo showing the new Dance Room expansion. I did not stop by the Meadow booth long enough to see that. One Sharp Joe, oh, it was great. One Sharp Joe was great. It was great to meet you at the convention. I managed to meet One Sharp Joe, which is I met so many people who I had not met in person until now. It's so nice. It's so nice. It's very nice to see people you're engaged with and to actually meet them in person. I am going to wrap up the stream in a minute or two, by the way. As usual, these tend to run for an hour, but we'll see. Renato, I'm really contemplating getting the Vindication Big Box in the Unsettled Pledge Manager. I love Vindication. I am not the right person to ask if you're looking to be discouraged. I love Vindication. Number 1, do you still have Super Fantasy Brawl? If not, why? I do have Super Fantasy Brawl, although it is a game that I wonder how long it lasts. Not because I don't like it. I really like it. But it doesn't get pulled out as often as I hoped it would. So we happened to pull it out a few weeks ago, which is very nice. But I really like Super Fantasy Brawl, and I have a lot of fun when I play it. If any game that doesn't get pulled out, doesn't matter how much I like it, will eventually leave. Super Fantasy Brawl is not going anywhere anytime soon, but it's at that point where I could see like a year or 2 years down the road, if it's not tabled as often and if I'm making way for more games, maybe it gets pulled out. I don't know, but right now it's sticking around. Dale, I'd prefer if you talk 25% faster. Chris Gaines, have you ever been to BGCon in Texas? I have not gone to any of the conventions yet that are more focused on playing games over demoing games. Part of that to me is just the practical reality of I get more, as a content creator, I get more out of conventions that have booths and publishers and vendors, and I get more business relationships out of those. And then combine that with the fact that as much as I would travel all the time, I have a wife and kids, and so I can't travel all the time, and so you have the practical reality of the fact that I have to make choices. So for right now, I have limited myself to, not limited myself like limited, but I've prioritized conventions that have like Origins, PAX, GenCon, things like that. Eventually, I do plan on going to other conventions that have more playing games, but it's certainly lower on my priority list. Joshua, I picked up Fall of the Mountain King based on your recommendation and seeing it at Gen Con. I hope you like it, Joshua. I really like Fall of the Mountain King. It's an absolute blast. I was very excited to see it at Gen Con. I was very excited. I didn't realize I was going to be there already. Heroes of the Shire, have you been to the UKGE in England? If so, how does Gen Con compare? I have not been to UKGE. I plan on going to UKGE and next year's Essen, not this Essen. So I'm going to be skipping this year's Essen, going to UKGE, to going to next year's Essen. That's the current plan. Time will tell. Frederick, just came on the chat. Can you just give us a quick list of your top 100 moments? Thanks. Yes, no. Hoplomachus Victorum and Acropolis, for those who missed it, Acropolis, those are my two favorite games so far, which I'll mention again at the end because we're wrapping up. Age of Atlantis, I believe copies are being shipped there currently. It seems like they're showing up without tracking info, so I hope I get it because I backed it and I want it. I mean, I have a bunch of Gen Con games that need to be put away right now. I have, like, maybe I'll do a Gen Con haul video. I don't know if I will. It depends. I'll have to go through what I got. My first convention I went to, and I'll wrap up with this and we'll call it a day. My first convention I went to was Origins. It was my first convention as a content creator, and speaking frankly, I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know. I'd never gone to a convention either as a regular, as a gamer or as a content creator. And I kind of walked around, introduced myself a lot, and picked up a lot of copies of games to cover that I shouldn't necessarily have picked up as many as I did. I overcommitted to a bunch of games I was less enthusiastic about than I should have been, because the practical reality is being around games makes you want them more. That's how these conventions work to a degree. And that's true as a content creator too. So like a game that normally I'd say no to reviewing at the convention, I was like, sure, absolutely. And so I picked up a ton of games. And every convention since then, I've been more particular around how many games I pick up. I went to PAX Unplugged and I came back with like 6 games instead of like 15. I went to Gamma, I came back with like 2 games. I went to Origins this past year, I came back with like 4 or 5 games. I've been more and more restrictive every time I go to a convention to try to not take on too many games, because I always want to treat it as if I'm buying games. I only want to cover games that I'm either that I actually bought or that I would have bought but I got a review copy. And so I've been more and more particular. This Gen Con is probably the most games I've had since that first Origins, although it's the most games I've had of games I actually want, and so I have to go through what I have. If I have enough, maybe I'll talk with them, maybe I'll do a list or not, I don't know, but there's many of these. And then lastly, we have Martin. Did you play any games at Gen Con that you skipped during the Kickstarter campaign and now want to get? First of all, Roleplay Adventures. I skipped that during the Kickstarter, and I absolutely do want that, so yes. I feel that the answer is yes to others, because I remember thinking about this during the convention. I remember thinking during the convention, oh dear Lord, what was it? There was a game during the convention that I thought, oh my gosh, I should do a video of 10 games I regret not backing. I don't remember what it was. Maybe I'll have to do that video after all. In any case, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of you very much. I had a lot of fun at Gen Con. I think conventions are a lot of fun. I think they're not for everyone, but the fun part is we can all play games together, so there is that, and there's a lot of good games to play. A lot of fun things I played. I really enjoyed Soulforge. I really enjoyed Hoplomachus. I really enjoyed Acropolis, Oceans, other games that I'm not remembering the second. There are a bunch. There's always a game for someone. In fact, let's talk about that last thing. I know I said last thing already, but I was talking to Arcane Wonders at the booth at Arcane Wonders. I was talking to Robert from Arcane Wonders, and I was saying how he's saying, oh, he has expansions for these two games. And I was like, well, I actually didn't like the base games enough, so like they were fine. I just don't need the expansions for them. But I really love this, and this from Arcane Wonders. I love Aquatica. I love Heroes of Land and Sea. I love Foundations of Rome. And he said that's our goal. He's like, you're never going to have a game for every person, but our goal as a publisher is to have 3 to 4 games for every person. You should always have some games within the Arcane Wonders library that are games for you. They won't all be for you, but something will be. And I agree with that. I think it's a very accurate way to approach the hobby. Not every game will be for you. Pick and choose judiciously and find the ones that are. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And I hope you have a good one. I don't think I've ever ended a live stream with that. That's just